Welcome to Damn Parenting, your English-speaking parenting podcast from the Netherlands. We are your hosts, Eva and
Maren.
We welcome you back to your second episode of Damn Chats, where myself and Maren are basically having what is normally an off mic conversation, I guess. Like usually when we've wrapped everything up and we're getting back onto our bikes, we end up stopping and chatting for like 10 or 15 minutes about something that's happening. And so that's basically what Damn Chats are going to be about. We've had people also sending us messages about, hey, can you just do a reality check of this? So this is kind of what this is going to be about. And today's episode is, can you really spoil your child? Now, spoil is, always a negative word. I think in any way anyone listens to that word, it's going to be a very negative word because it's like, oh, you spoiled the child or oh, this or oh, that. And myself and Mara are kind of having chats about technically what is spoiling a child. What do you consider to be spoiling a child? And what do you feel is actually just being nice?
Exactly, like random acts of kindness. And also when you get comments from our parents' generation or our grandparents' generation so they even see spoiling as when I carry, well, my child isn't in school yet, but something if I would carry their backpack. It would be like, they can carry it themselves. Like, don't spoil them? I'm like, but if someone would come up to me, and especially if my partner would see me with my heavy grocery bag after I've been around all day and I've doing all my stuff, and they just come and take that bag from me, I would never think they're spoiling me. And no one would say, stop carrying the grocery bag for your wife. You're spoiling her. It's like this whole concept of random acts of kindness that I thought I enjoy these little things when someone shows me a random act of affection and being nice because they appreciate me and they love me. It's not linked to a big thing where my husband says, here, lay down for an hour massage. No, that's not that. But let me get the grocery bag, I'll carry it in. Or, oh, you're sitting there, you're reading or you're drinking your tea. Let me just walk by and rub your back for like 5 seconds. And that's it. And that feels nice, right? So incorporating these little random acts of kindness where I can show my child without a big fuss, without giving them a present, without giving them 10 more chocolates, like these little daily life affirmations for them that I love them and I appreciate them. And this is something that I have come across on social media where someone had talked about this, of circling back to ourselves and asking ourselves, what are these little things that we appreciate so much in our daily life? And then yet we deny them sometimes to our children because of the fear of, putting this in quotation, spoiling them. What are we spoiling them with? Love, affection, a feeling of I am seen and I am appreciated in this household? Like, what's the flip side of not doing it, right?
So one of the things when we were talking about this was I did quickly kind of look into a couple of things and check out a few websites and social medias. And I did find some child psychologists who was talking about when spoiled children like grow up to be these selfish, overindulged, and they tend to be unhappy children as well because they're dissatisfied with life, basically. They pointed out that there was going to be 5 kind of questions. Are you raising a spoiled child? Some of these are kind of interesting and some of them are true actually as well. So the first one they say is not taking no for an answer. Your child is basically telling you no and you're like, oh, okay. I do let my child say no personally, hey, if you want to eat your dinner, fine, you want to eat your dinner, but I'm not making you a second dinner, but you can always say no. They do have a chance to voice themselves and to say no or yes, exactly like, do you want, give granddad or nana a hug or something like that. And if your child says no, it's like, well, I'm not going to push you because I respect your boundaries as well. But I do think, there are certain limits. Like if your child is get out of bed, no, clean up after yourself. No, if they're constantly saying no, I can definitely see why they're saying that.
Yeah.
Children who just want to receive stuff and they're not sharing or giving anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of hard. Well, especially with our toddlers, it's kind of hard, I guess, at this age to kind of see, are we going to be raising a spoiled child or not? Because toddlers in general don't learn to kind of share properly and play with other people until I think they're 4, I think it is.
Yeah. Funny that you say these two things and I agree with them. And I have thought, okay, if a child really does that the whole time, why are they doing it? Right. And we're talking about toddlers, right? We're not talking about a 10-year-old or like teenager or something where they are aware of what they're doing. But we're talking like, let's say 1.5 to 4, kind of that's like the age range. And then I'm just asking myself, isn't a child that is content, calm within themselves, and reassured that they are in a safe space and with safe people, they are more willing to cooperate, right?
Yeah.
So I would ask myself, if my child constantly says no, then there must be something that they're looking for, right?
Yeah.
And they're provoking with that no. And that might be attention, that might be some reaction. Because sometimes what I also feel is if I am on a baseline too much, my child does something, and both ways. Sometimes she does like something super funny and then we laugh, and then it's like this positive spike in like from that baseline. But equally, and it's easier, of course, for them to go into tantrums and go into the opposite and not being cooperative, because that's when they know they have your one-on-one attention. They're not filtering, oh, I want negative or positive attention. They just want attention. And that's how they ensure you will drop your phone, you will drop everything. You will scream at them maybe, but that's when they know mommy's looking in my eyes. Mommy is having physical contact with me. Nothing is interacting within our connection. And that's, I think, I guess, yeah, how can we make them more cooperative? And I guess for me, it's really again, we're talking about normal development, nothing out of the ordinary, of course, nothing like diagnosed pathological, like just the random mayhem of toddlerhood. And I guess, and also with the sharing, if they feel they have enough and they feel like they get it back and they're sure and they can feel safe and content without having that, and they know they're getting it back, and they also see from us, I guess, right? So that's what I also started doing. I randomly offer her stuff from my food. I randomly offer her stuff like a zip from my drink, because then she knows I'm willing to give it to her. So she doesn't have to make sure she gets a piece of it. That's when you said that. Yeah, I was thinking, so what could be then what's actually going on? Because obviously they can't do this whole, why am I doing this? They're not, my toddler doesn't ask herself like, oh, why am I being so loud? Why am I screaming? Why am I doing? They're not the stage of self-reflection yet.
Yeah, that unfortunately a child's brain isn't actually fully formed until they're 25. So
Yes.
I mean, we've still got a long way to go. But someone actually said, like years ago, I remember they were kind of saying that when it comes to children sharing, they say, think about it. If you're in an office and you're sitting there on your computer working away and you're writing down your notes and you're reading a book or whatever, and your boss comes over and just goes, well, you got to share your book, and just takes your book and hands it to your coworker. It's like, as an adult, you're like, no. Like, I'm actually using that. And the thing is, it's always to keep that in mind of, okay, we're not just going to take that to give it to this other child just to appease them. And it's always like, myself and Maren went to the Jakarta Montessori school, and Simone was always very supportive on actually showing us how to actually share. And it was a case of, one is always recognizing the other child would like it. So addressing that to say, I see you and you would like this. And when my child is finished playing with it, they're going to give it to you. And that was always such a great way. And for the first year or so, I could see my daughter kind of struggling with the idea of, well, I'm going to now sit here for like 16 hours and play with this because I don't want to share it. Yeah. But then she grew up to being like, well, actually, I'm done with it. And then handing it to the other child. And it was just so nice to actually see that. But it is just always keeping your mind, hey, if I was an adult and if someone came over and just did this to me, that's not fair either.
Yeah. When you say this, and that's, I guess, the biggest revelation I had when it came to the reality of what's the reality of toddlers. I know we're getting a little off topic. We wanted to talk about spoiling them, but I guess that comes to the same thing of giving them attention and affection. Is when they have a sibling, when they become siblings. And I was like really reading this example and I thought, oh my God, this is true. So they said, imagine your partner, like your life partner, so in my case, my husband, would come home with another woman I had never met before. He had talked about like, oh yeah, so in 9 months, Jennifer is going to come to us and Jennifer is going to be super nice and we will all love her. You don't see her, you don't get to see her yet, but Jennifer is amazing. And then all of a sudden, the doorbell rings and my husband is like, Jennifer, finally you're here. And it's like, hi, this is Jennifer. It's like my second wife now. She's going to move into our bed and you can scoot over, right? And she will share everything with you and she will never leave again. And I love her as much as I love you, although I have known you for so much longer. But Jennifer is equally with you now. And I would be like,
what the F?
Get the fuck out of here. Yeah.
I've never heard that, but that is such a great idea.
And
Like,
I thought, oh my God, yes, this is so true. If we talk about the sibling who's gonna arrive and they're gonna be so amazing and we love them no matter what, and they don't even have to do anything. Because my
wow.
child would be like, I have eaten up my plate and I have cleaned up. So why am I not being loved more? Right. So that's this whole concept. And I thought this made so much sense to me.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing is like at the end of the day, these toddlers are basically just trying to, first of all, figure out their capacity, their abilities, all this.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that we're actually putting society on them and saying, well, this is
Yeah.
actually how you're to act in this society that we're raised in. And it could be different in all the other different continents or countries around the world. But it's the fact that they're trying to just figure out the bare minimum of living
Yeah.
in their human little body with their little brains. And
Yeah.
then we put on society on top of them going,
Yeah.
well, actually, this is what's expected of you. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, I think this is one thing that for me, like has given me the ability to have a higher tolerance level and the ability to have patience, a lot more patience than I probably ever
Yeah.
would have had in my life. But it's just hearing these kind of things that you're like, oh yeah, keep it in mind, you know, that they're sitting there and they don't want to eat. For example, like when you're giving them the food and it's a case of like, oh, you know, here's your broccoli, but their palate changes every 2 weeks in certain stages of their life and it tastes awful to them. And you're like, well, you got to eat this. It's that idea that it's a case of getting back to the spoiling element. It's being able to actually give them and enjoy time with them when you can, when you have the ability, the energy, you're not as sleep deprived, you know. I think we were chatting and you were talking about, you know, giving a nice yogurt or a snack or something like that. And it's the fact that when we give them to our child, that we enjoy it as well. And technically, I don't see that as spoiling if you both enjoying this.
Yeah. And also just these little things that make their life nicer and easier, right? So if I have the energy and the capacity, now I really started incorporating this more into my conscious parenting of, I now randomly ask my daughter when we go up the stairs, like, hey, do you want me to carry you up the stairs? It makes such an impact to her. And it's such a random thing because usually she has to ask for it and it has to be like this special thing that I am willing to carry her up. And then I thought, you know what? This is a little thing that means so much to her. And if I have at this moment the capacity to do it, I can just do it, you know? And then I enjoy this little whatever, how long it takes me to walk up the stairs, 20 seconds of just holding her without this big thing. And these little things that I really have started to cooperate more into the daily life. And also for me to really switch the attention or the perception of the task. So when another random example, when we're outside and she has her scooter and then sometimes she doesn't want to scoot and then I end up carrying it, you know, and then a lot of the times I'm annoyed by it and like, oh, I have to schlep this thing again. I have to like carry it and like getting into this whole complaining about it, which is fine sometimes, you know, sometimes you got to do it. But I thought, you know what, maybe I can also see it as, hey, I'm doing this as a random act of kindness towards her. It's making the next 10 minutes easier for her. It's fine. I'll do it. And like switch this perception of, oh, now I have to schlep this stupid thing to, hey, I'll make her life easier for this 10 minutes. I'll just carry it. Done. So if you have the capacity, of course, it's hard sometimes, but it's maybe an inspiration or idea to whenever you can switch this around with your own perception, then why not do it, you know?
So circling back then to the other three things that they say about raising spoiled kids. So one of them is like demanding things like now. So like those, you know, so that's obviously like pretty simple, only thinking about themselves. So they expect everything. So it's kind of similar to demanding things. They expect everything. And the last one was never satisfied with what they actually have. They're used to having everything, but they always want more. They want everything that they don't have. I think those kind of things I can definitely see as spoiling, but I think what we're talking about is more of an approach of, you know, appreciating the moments and just being like, hey, they're having a tough time. That's no problem. They're struggling with something. I'm here to help them. At the end of the day, it's support and not spoiled. We're not talking about giving chocolate for breakfast, lunch, dinner every single day. We're not talking
Yeah.
about they get
Letting your
to,
boundaries go. Like we're not talking about
yeah,
like
no.
don't have anything in place anymore.
Exactly. It's just a case of it's a case. I don't think it's spoiling. I think there are spoiling elements that you should be aware of, but I think it's a
Yeah.
case of don't feel guilty. If you, yeah, as you say, if you carry them, if you carry them upstairs, if you carry their things, however it is, because at the end of the day, these little mites are growing up super fast. I think sometimes we also need to check in with ourselves to be like, let's just appreciate this a little more, you know, and they feel like, you know, I've got a stable ground, I've got my love, I got my support, I've got my circle of trust. And I know that. And, you know, this is good. And it can kind of make ourselves have a bit of an easier time. It gives them an easier time. Every day is already a lot as a parent. Giving everyone a break can actually be great for everyone involved.
And with that, hopefully that was our random act of kindness to you to give you some peace of mind and maybe some inspiration for your next week. And we're going to wrap it up here with the chats. Hopefully that was something you enjoyed listening to. And maybe you can go into your week thinking what can be the random act of kindness towards my family and also towards myself. Like, what is like a little nice thing for myself to do? With that, we'll leave it and we will hear you on the next episode. Every Wednesday, we release a new episode. That was it.